What's up guys, the Strong Boys 19 here. This is going to be my brand new update video for the past 2 months that just went, and with the records that I have purchased, let's just say that I have bought quite a lot. And throughout the holiday at the Isle of Wight, a few of the days I did go pretty crazy with the amount of records that I did purchase. Picked up a few CDs as well, but I want to start with the CDs. As with the records, some of these I'm really happy to have, but I have some words that I want to say on some of them in terms of the condition on these records. Anyways, the first one is Liam Gallagher with the live album that was broadcasted actually the day before my birthday back in 2020, down by the River Thames. And I was there in terms of watching the live stream of his performance when he performed down by the River Thames. And I just thought I'd pick it up because I am a fan of his own solo stuff. And this was something that I was involved with in terms of the people that purchase online tickets to watch his performance. So the next CD is from a band that I have always really liked, and this is from one of those non-metal bands, and that is Red Hot Chili Peppers with Californication. I'm very surprised that this was the band's best-selling album. I thought it was going to be Blood Sugar Sex Magic because that album being the most successful, but this one I really enjoyed very much. And this was an album that was involved in the Loudness War controversy, and as it was produced by Rick Rubin. This one I think has become one of my favorites, and I think that this album, from its singles, like the earlier ones, did bring me some nostalgia because I actually do like Red Hot Chili Peppers. So that's another one for the collection. And the last CD for the update is pretty much going to be something that's going to divide many people here. It's an album that has a lot of its fans, but it's still divided as one of the worst metal albums. Yeah. Saint Anger by Metallica. And I want to review Metallica's discography album by album because why not do it since the band celebrated 40 years as a band last year. But this is the Digipack edition, which contains the DVD of the Saint Anger rehearsals. What I will say is, and obviously I will not say so much, I want to say this album has a different purpose than the other Metallica albums, that I want to share my personal take on this. And this was obviously known as their worst album, but I want to save my experience with this album until I will review Saint Anger. Now, onto the records. No particular order. The first one is Deep Purple's live album, Made in Europe. And this is a brilliant live album. I just don't get some of the mixed reception about some of the later eras of Deep Purple, but this is from the Burn period, which has David Coverdale and the maestro Glenn Hughes. I love Glenn Hughes. The band were just as great, even that they were playing without Ian Gillan involved. I think this is an original pressing on the EMI Records label. The band sounded amazing on this live album. Next up, this is probably an original pressing on the MCA Records label from a band called Spyro Gyra, with this album, Catching the Sun. This is an instrumental album, but with really positive, beautiful, and upbeat sounding musicianship on like jazz fusion, but it's got a lot of brilliant, wonderful musical performances. And I think this band is pretty underrated as well. I think that you should check this one out, as I did see that they've released a lot of albums in their discography. Great album. Now, this one, I'm a little bit butthurt about my listening experience with this one. This is an original first press on an album that is one of my new all-time favourites. And the first half of this, the record was crackling, and I think I had to deal with 4 or 5 various random skips, which made me mad. The second half, though, played very, very well. Queensryche, Operation Mindcrime. And this is a new addition to my list of my favourite albums of all time, because I always loved listening to this beautiful, clear sounding on production and the vocals to the guitars. This is one of the best concept albums ever made. From 88 on the EMI Records label again, and this record is the masterpiece. And I wanted to check out Queensryche for a long while now, although I'm not going to buy Operation Mindcrime 2 or Frequency Unknown, because I've heard those 2 albums are pieces of shit in the Queensryche name, but I love this album. It's a first press, and despite the mixed reactions of my listening experience, I am really glad to revisit this album. Excuse me. Next one is Sir Paul McCartney with Tug of War. This album is amazing. This is possibly an original pressing as well, and I think that this is one of his best. Not one of like the classics, because there are some experimental stuff on here that I did like, but from what I've heard on most of this album, this was excellent. And I think that this is a better album than McCartney 2. And I actually did like McCartney 2, to be fair. But I think that Tug of War is a better experiment of an album. I always love this album cover, by the way, as well. Next up, speaking of Paul once again, we have Wings with Venus and Mars. This is an album that I always really enjoyed. Some stuff on here I really like as well. And this is a gatefold sleeve. Has the MPL label on this one. But yeah, I have actually not bought a lot of both McCartney's solo stuff or Wings yet. Although my favourite McCartney solo album at the moment is McCartney, the very first album. And I love Ram as well. But yeah, I do like to listen to some Wings. Next up, one of my favourite Birmingham bands ever, the Moody Blues, A Question of Balance. This does contain an insert sleeve, and this is a fold out for the other artwork to have a look at this beautiful detail all over the place. But yeah, the Moody Blues are a band that I really have been a fan of for some time. This is on the Threshold record label. Next up, this is a first press of the Stranglers with No More Heroes. And I think that the Stranglers are an excellent, really, really good poppy, post-punk, new wave type of band. I love this track title, Peasant in the Big Shitty. Yeah, but it does have big hits on this one as well. But yeah, anyways, the Stranglers are a band that I really like as well. The Yes album by Yes, one of my favourite Yes albums. This is a stereo pressing on the Atlantic label. And this does have some of my favourite Yes songs, like Yours Is No Disgrace and Starship Trooper, which is a masterpiece. The Clap, I don't get the hate about that one. I always love that one. And we've all heard of I've Seen All Good People, but this album is really, really great. And, it's one of my top 5 in their discography as a whole. Next up, Electric Light Orchestra with the concept album, Time. And I think this is an original, and it says first press on the label. And despite the look of the ring wear, unfortunately, I think the way I was feeling this, don't quote that out of context, feeling this cardboard, it felt, dare I say it, sticky. So I'm not really sure if this is going to play very well, but I actually did check all the records. Some of these records that are cheap priced may sound good, but sometimes it can go the other way round. Anyway, love Jeff Lynne, love ELO, and if you don't like Electric Light Orchestra, then you don't know some of the greatest makings of pop music. Next up, we have Sir Elton John with the album Don't Shoot Me, I'm Only the Piano Player. This is an album that I really liked as well. It's one of those albums that I enjoyed so much. I mean, Daniel was the big hit of this. The 2 Elton John albums that I really want to get, that are my favourites, are Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy and Honky Chateau. But I am actually a fan of Elton John for some time, and I do have a few records of his, but not a lot for now. Dio with this album Dream Evil. This is a first press. I have heard of the first 2 Dio solo albums, but I wanted to get this one because I need to dive into the later stuff of his. This is on the Vertigo Records pressing of his album, and I love the Vertigo label very, very much. And it is a big thank you to Black Sabbath for popularizing the record label's impact. So there you go. Dream Evil by my favorite metal vocalist of all time. Now this one here, this does have some beautiful, gorgeous artwork by Roger Dean, who's a renowned artist for these types of artworks on bands that he has been involved with for album covers, like Yes. But this is a band called Osibisa. Might have mispronounced that, I am so sorry. But this is not the prog album that you would expect. This is actually like a world jazzy fusion style album. Very percussive. This is an original on the MCA label, and I actually really like this one. I very much love this album. I know that they've released a few later ones in their discography, but I've heard great things about this, and I was so pleased that I did pick this one up. The next one is Tracy Chapman's debut album, and this is the German first pressing, and obviously you know Fast Car of this, and I was surprised that she did not release any new music, as she didn't make a lot of albums. And this is on the Elektra / Asylum Records label. So hopefully this one is going to be a pretty comfortable experience, because the record itself does look okay-ish, but at least I have it on CD as well. Now this one, this is a record called Albedo 039 on the RCA Records label from, unfortunately, a musician who's no longer with us, Vangelis, or Vangelis. I still have troubles pronouncing his name. One of my favourite electronic experimental musicians, and I just think that the cover art looks very nice. So I might as well pick this one up for the collection. Again, not a musician that I have a lot for the collection at the moment. So that's that record. The next one, this one I am really having a lot of difficulty if this is just going to be playing very well. But this is a band that I wanted to dive into properly, and I've heard a few songs from this band, but not enough to really discover them so big at the moment. And that is Marillion, with this album Clutching at Straws. This is released to critical acclaim upon its release on the EMI Records label. This state of the record is what made me worried. Lyrics on both sides, but you know, I think this is an original pressing as well. It's I don't know if you can really see or pay attention like very closely, but on my end, this does look really mucky. Bit of hairs. Maybe if it'll play great, but I am very unsure, because if this is the type of sound that I will have to deal with, like I did with Operation Mindcrime, then I'll have to buy another pressing, because I can't stand these pressings that do look great, but with the state of records that are indifferent, I'm not having it. I'm not buying them. Yet alone that I did buy these records, because I thought that they did look pretty decent. Anyway, so that is Clutching at Straws by Marillion, and I actually need to buy their new album. I've heard really good things about Marillion's new album. And the second to last one is John Anderson with his debut album on the Atlantic Records pressing of Elias of Sun Hillow. And this is a record that I've actually not checked out yet. The record looks pretty good, and you know, I'm not really sure actually, for any Yes fans or John Anderson fans or both, I want to know if some of his latest stuff is either good or not as good as this album, because I've heard that this is known as a prog classic for some fans. You know, with John Anderson at this point, he went into his own beliefs and, you know, his own views on imagery to, you know, religion and just these mythologies. Not that I'm judging, by the way, but I was really glad to pick this up in the end. So that is John Anderson's first solo album. And the last one for today, this one does contain some really cool stuff that I didn't expect. This is Rush with A Farewell to Kings. Really, really good album. Zen Undo is my favourite Rush song at the moment. So you can see this stuff here. But what's the coolest part about what I've just bought at that point, it did contain an unexpected feature of an actual newspaper print of Rush. Lots of info, and this was an actual piece of paper from the early early period of '78. So that's really cool. And the other thing is a touring program. The World Tour Exclusive Concert Edition. I think that this is from a different edition of maybe this album or whatever. But if this did actually come with this, in terms of this original vinyl, then that's well cool. Again, loads of words, pictures of the bands, etc. So, yeah, Farewell to Kings is a really good album from Rush. Not my favourite. My favourite has always been 2112. And I actually did listen to some of the later Yes. Like, I am actually a big fan now of Counterparts. And obviously you got the other beloved albums like the Permanent Waves album. And I'm actually a big fan of Grace Under Pressure too. Anyways, Rush are one of my favourite progressive rock bands, and I am pleased that I did pick this record for the collection. And I think this is my first Rush album on vinyl. So that's great. Anyways, guys, that is that for my update video. And much love to all of you. Hope you lot are doing well yourselves mentally and productively. And I've been very busy. So Hardgraft are going to be, pretty hectic with the amount of work and gigs that we are going to do for this month. But I will be back to do some more reviews. I'm going to be reviewing the new Soulfly album, Totem. And I still have to do the other videos that I've mentioned before. Classic Albums Revisited is going to come back with a review on one of my most favourite Neil Young albums of all time. So I'll keep you guys posted for that. And I will say this very briefly, but I want to make a separate video to this. I'm going to be coming back to live streaming on Twitch this coming Sunday. Further information about it will be talked about in a new video. So keep an eye out for that video coming up. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll keep you guys posted for more videos in the near future.